The time has arrived for the second chapter in the most defining rivalry in the National Football League. A showdown that transcends the divisional standings and touches the very core of organizational pride. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. Haha, this is not simply a rematch of the Week 1 nail-biter. It is a completely recalibrated conflict, played on a fresh stage with new personnel, new defensive identities, and stakes that absolutely could not be higher. If the Eagles secure this victory, they position themselves not just to run away with the NFC East, but to lock in the coveted first round, buy-in home field advantage throughout the playoffs. A prize essential for a team, focused on another Super Bowl run. Anything less than a dominant performance, especially against Dallas, is an unacceptable outcome, given the ultimate goal. The biggest story that the mainstream media is obsessing over is the Cowboys' new-look defense, but let us be honest, the biggest risk, the largest question mark, and the most crucial inflection point resides squarely in the trenches of the Eagles' offensive line. All eyes have been on the concussion protocol surrounding Cam Jurgens, and while a Saturday practice participation suggests he's trending toward playing, the real physical concern is not his head, but his knee. Jurgens has been noticeably playing through pain, rocking a massive brace and visibly struggling with push-off power over the past couple of weeks. When the Eagles line up on Sunday, he will be staring across the line of scrimmage at Quinn Williams, one of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen in the entire sport. A player who was inexplicably traded and is now hungry to prove his dominance. If Jurgens plays at 60 or 70% health, as he appears to have been, the Eagles are taking an enormous, calculated risk. The coaching staff and medical team trust that the risk is mitigated, but one only needs to look back to the performance against the Giants, where a healthier depth player, Brett Toth, was instrumental in a successful ground game performance against a stout defensive front. To understand the gravity of this gamble, if Jurgens falters early, if Williams is blowing up the pocket play after play, a crucial in-game decision will need to be made, and the entire flow of the offense will be immediately disrupted. While the attention is on Dallas's defensive acquisitions, the national conversation has completely ignored the foundational shift that has occurred within the Eagles' defensive unit since the two teams last met. In Week 1, two of the Eagles' most vital, high-impact young players, Jalen Carter and Kobe Dean, were either absent or severely limited. Carter's impact in the last few weeks has been nothing short of monstrous, playing perhaps the best football of his young career. His presence means that Dak Prescott cannot simply sit comfortably in the pocket. Carter creates quick interior pressure that disrupts timing and forces poor decisions. A dynamic the Cowboys did not face in the first meeting. Even more significant, however, is the full integration of Kobe Dean at linebacker. Dean's presence does not simply add a talented player, it completely revolutionizes the mental flow of the defense. Reed Blankenship, the quarterback of the defense, spent much of the early season having to manage and direct the rookie and less experienced players on every single snap. A constant, debilitating mental burden that slowed down his own reaction time. With Dean now fully operational and completely savvy in Vic Fangio's complex scheme, Blankenship is relieved of that constant directorial role, allowing him to play faster, react quicker, and focus purely on his own assignments and adjustments. This synergy is the unspoken reason the Eagles' defense has looked so dramatically better in recent weeks, and it is a factor that zero national commentators are mentioning when discussing this matchup. Furthermore, the defensive line gets an absolute pure pass-rushing weapon in Jalen Phillips, who has never experienced the intensity of this rivalry, but has already proven his ability to generate sacks off the edge. This added layer of pressure is critical, especially considering the Eagles failed to even touch Dak Prescott in the first meeting. If the Cowboys have been vulnerable, it has been when Prescott is sacked repeatedly, a fate that befell them in their recent losses to Denver and Arizona. Phillips is the man to ensure that the Week 1 pass rush ineptitude is not repeated. The challenge on the defensive side, however, remains squarely focused on the Cowboys' two dynamic, high-volume receivers, C.D. Lamb and George Pickens. Pickens, whom Quinn Mitchell successfully contained in the first matchup, will once again be a test for the Eagles' secondary depth. But the bigger issue remains Lamb. He absolutely cooked Adoree Jackson early in the first game, and the defensive strategy must adjust to limit his intermediate to deep crossing routes and rolls. This game is a magnificent opportunity for Fangio's defense to make a definitive statement, to prove that their recent successful run against the Packers and Lions was not a fluke. Shutting down the Cowboys' high-flying offense, which ranks top 3 in most offensive categories, would garner the league-wide respect that is currently being withheld. The coaching staff is masters of mid-season adjustment, and their ability to blow out the Giants in the second matchup after struggling in the first is a testament to their capacity to adapt. We must trust that the same analytical and strategic adjustments have been made to neutralize the Cowboys' primary offensive threats. Now we must turn our attention to the Eagles' offense, which remains a source of frustration, drama, and immense potential. And spectential. Week after week, we ask the same question. Is this the week the Kayambulo offense finally finds its consistent rhythm? There is a glimmer of hope rooted in the fact that the offense, when facing the Giants for the second time, absolutely shredded that defensive front and gave Saquon Barkley his best rushing performance of the year. However, Dallas presents a fundamentally different challenge because they operate one of the most zone-heavy defensive schemes in the league. This is the Eagles' Achilles' heel. Against X1, Bulo must scheme up passes that attack the soft middle of the field and rely on timing routes specifically for A.J. Brown. The frustration from Brown himself is palpable and public. He is essentially begging for a more complex and varied approach to attacking these defensive looks. If the play calling does not adjust to provide Brown with the opportunities to exploit the gaps in the zone through crossing routes and quick hitters, then the offense is destined to sputter, especially if the Cowboys are successful in pressuring Jalen Hurts. The relationship between Hurts and Brown and the overall offensive chemistry feels precariously positioned at a tipping point. If Brown is marginalized again, if the offense looks slow, conservative, and penalty-ridden, the frustration will inevitably boil over, threatening the cohesion of the entire unit. However, the reverse is also true. If Brown can break 100 yards, if the offense fires on all cylinders and demonstrates the explosive, varied attack we know they are capable of, it will be a monumental inflection point that will set the course for a smooth, confident run into the playoffs. The margin for error is razor thin, and the most frustrating correctable mistakes are the pre-snap and false start penalties that kill drives before they even begin. If the offense can simply clean up the mental errors, the things that require zero talent, as Nick Sirianni often stresses, then the immense talent on the field will naturally take over. Ultimately, while the historical trends might suggest the Eagles struggle on the road against Dak Prescott-led Cowboys teams, the reality is that this 2025 Eagles roster is fundamentally superior. They possess a deeper, more resilient defense, a more explosive, albeit inconsistent, offense, and the psychological edge of fighting for the #1 seed. The importance of winning this game for playoff seeding cannot be overstated. Win this game, and the path to 13 or 14 wins becomes clear, which means securing the first round bye. The Eagles cannot afford to look bad, they cannot afford to play down to their competition, and they certainly cannot drop this game. The expectation must be a complete double-digit victory, a true statement to the league that the road to the Super Bowl once again runs through Philadelphia. The players are ready, the analysis is complete, and now all that remains is to execute a calculated, aggressive, and ultimately dominant performance on Sunday.